What? Sorry.
Q&A?
Q&A. You know, and you just have a moment. I don't know. It's been one of those days, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's something in the air. I don't know where you are at the moment, but it's really foggy here. And I swear this is just having some effect.
It's been a busy day.
I think there's been a lot happening today. And sorry, I couldn't find my words then. I don't know what happened. But yeah, it's our latest Instagram Live Q&A. Thank you for tuning in. It's actually happening a bit later than our usual ones. So we're trying a tea time one. So hopefully you're able to tune in, and thank you if you are. So we're going to be taking some questions live on air with Rosie from our helpline once again. So if you're tuning in and you have a question about epilepsy, then just drop it in the chat, and then we'll get to it. So thank you for people who've already sent stuff in. How are you doing, Rosie, first of all? I think let's just...
Yeah, we've just had a really busy day, which is great, and also a lot. It's like really nice to be really busy, and then at the end of it you're definitely ready to have a break.
Well, let's try and make this as relaxing as possible.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really good that we can actually get to talk to you now. So thank you for everyone who sent stuff in. One of the first questions to get us going is anyone else having trouble of getting hold of medication? There's been quite a few of these questions actually that have come through, and obviously people are really concerned that this is going to have an impact on what they usually take. So what would we say to them in that situation?
Yeah. So it can be a bit of a tricky question to answer, and that's just because it depends so much on the type of medicine you're taking, and if you're concerned about the generic medicine or if it's about the brand that you're on. Yeah. So the first thing I'd say is I'd really recommend giving us a call or send us an email, and we're more than happy to look into your medicine for you.
Yeah.
But a general bit of advice would be, if you're going to your pharmacist and they're not able to give you your medicine, you can take your prescription to a different pharmacist.
Oh, okay.
And see if they have that medicine available for you. You can also, if for example there is a shortage of the medicine that you take across the country, you can talk to your doctor or sometimes as well pharmacist for a bit of extra advice.
Because often it's not just a local pharmacy, is it? Sometimes it can be a nationwide shortage, and then we have information on our Drug Watch page. So we keep that updated. So if there's anything that's sort of a known shortage, then
we update it. Yeah. And if something happens to you and you're a bit concerned about it, as I said, get in touch, and one of our team will always try and contact the manufacturer and look into it for you.
That's really helpful. So do get in touch, because often we don't always know until people start contacting us if it's starting to become an issue.
No, definitely,
I guess so. The main thing is obviously get in touch with us, get in touch, and I didn't realise that you could go to other pharmacies as well.
You can go to other pharmacies and see if they have anything in stock. If it's it may be that they've just got something in the pharmacy you go to are having a bit of a problem with it. But
no, that's great advice, because it can be really worrying, can't it, when you really rely and depend on your medication, and then there's a particular issue that you can't get hold of one or
definitely.
And so the other one is how have I? Sorry, I've been told I can't get dentures because of seizures. What would you say to that? I'm just going to ask our production team if they can get me a glass of water. Sorry. Just going to be cheeky here. Can I have some water, please?
Yeah.
Like a diva.
You know, and I'm just trying to talk to you, and I'm just like, I cannot hold this in. There's been a lot of coffee in the office today as well. Sorry, this is a really serious question. So, people who can't get dentures because of seizures, I guess they maybe have quite sort of not violent ones, but ones that may have an impact on them. So, what would we say?
So I can give some general advice. Now, it may be that the individual who's contacted us has certain reasons that they're not eligible for, that we just don't know about. From our knowledge, there's plenty of people out there with epilepsy who have things like braces and dentures safely. It's important to talk to your orthodontist about it and get advice from them, because it may be that for some reason you're not eligible for it, or that there's something else in place. And it's important as well that those dentures or your braces are fitted correctly and there's nothing going wrong. it could be that if there's a bit of a problem with it, that may then in turn injure somebody, possibly.
Yeah, no, that's I worry if they become loose, I guess. So, yeah.
So making sure that they're safe and that you're maintaining them as best you can is important. But really, it's not one, although that's our general advice and the knowledge that we have on it, it is always a good idea to talk to your orthodontist and just
definitely
make sure they're clear on that as well for you.
Yeah, that's great. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Thank you. See, I've got, like, you've just asked for water and you get it, so thank you. Yeah, we've got a great team behind the camera that are helping us out with all this, so thank you. Right, we've got our first question through live on air today from Loz. Any advice on how to help calm down absent seizures? So let's just talk about what absent seizures are first, because not everyone has absent seizures, are they?
Yeah.
Do they, rather? So,
well, I think, it's important to say there are lots of different types of epileptic seizures. There's,
exactly.
I think roughly 60 we think there are, but from my memory there's roughly 60, yeah. And so often when people talk about epilepsy, you think of the thing we see on the telly where somebody falls to the floor and convulses.
Yeah.
And there are people with epilepsy who do experience those. They're called tonic-clonic seizures. But there are lots of people with epilepsy who experience different types of seizures that we just don't know about. And absent seizures can be one of those. During an absent seizure, different people can have different types of absent seizures. There are some that are typical and some that are atypical. And if you'd like to read a bit more about them, we do have a lot more information that's in a lot more detail on our website. An absent seizure generally tends to only last a few seconds. And it can be as if someone looks as if they're daydreaming. So someone might stare forward and go blank. And sometimes it's quite difficult to notice because it's so brief.
Yeah, it's sort of fleeting, isn't it? Yeah.
And it does appear as though somebody's having a daydream. So often you get people who are diagnosed after a really long time of having them, and simply because everybody described them as a daydreamer. And if that's what people describe you as, then that can be what you're seeing. But
I know it can have an impact. We often hear from parents of children who are having absent seizures at school and then they're getting told off for daydreaming.
Definitely, yeah.
So and that can have an impact, can't it? Because you're trying to be taken seriously, but you're also trying to keep up, I guess, as well.
And just keeping an eye out for it as well can be really helpful. Now,
so the question was how to calm them down. Now I guess that's difficult because I don't know. Do you think it's the anxiety that you might be having them? I think that's what maybe the person, Loz is asking.
So it can depend. So if you're, and this goes for any type of seizure, the first thing that is important to do if you're trying to control your seizures is taking your medicine as exactly as prescribed by the doctor or close to that as possible. So for example, if you take it at 8 o'clock in the morning, try and do that every single day.
Okay.
Obviously sometimes there's stuff that can get in the way and means you might have to take it a little after 8, that example, but that's important. You can then try and stay away, if you're able, try and stay away from seizure triggers. So not everybody with epilepsy is affected by seizure triggers, but some people are. So an example of seizure triggers, or the most common ones, can be stress or lack of sleep. For some people it can be drinking alcohol. There's even missing meals can be some. Affects some people,
which is a concern we're hearing a lot at the moment, because obviously cost of living's a big issue for all of us right now, and we're hearing from quite a few people who are missing meals to try and save money. It's very worrying, but that can also then be a seizure trigger, unfortunately.
And I think that's one of the tricky things with seizure triggers. When somebody asks a question like that, how can you reduce your seizures, or and try and reduce them? And one of the things we do talk about is trying to stay away from seizure triggers. That is a lot easier said than done, and I really appreciate that. For me, I'm sat on one side of the helpline telling people to be less stressed, which is very easy to say. It's common sense as well. So it is tricky. But, I guess if it helps, you can get in touch with us if you've got more specific concerns about how to manage absent seizures. Then do get in touch, and often it's easier to talk to someone on our helpline, and then you can sort of talk a little bit more about those seizure triggers. Or the medication that you're on. But I think it's just taking those sort of common sense steps.
which easier said than done.
If your seizures are increasing, I wasn't sure if their seizures were increasing or not, but if they are, you can contact your neurologist. Which sounds obvious, but it's true. I think often we forget that we can do that. If your medicine is maybe not working or you're struggling with your treatment, you can contact your neurologist.
And I think keeping a record of if you are noticing a pattern in your seizures changing or increasing, then often being able to go with that data, if you like, then at least you can have those conversations and evidence, because I guess if there's no clear pattern, then it can be hard to keep that track, can't it? So we hope that helped, but do get in touch with our helpline if you want to talk a bit more about your seizures, Loz. 90, how do I cope with headaches that are a side effect of my medication?
Okay.
So I'm sorry to hear you're having bad headaches, and that must be challenging as a side effect. Do we hear this a lot?
I've heard it from some people, but what's difficult when it comes to epilepsy medicines is some people find that if they start on a medicine, the side effects can die down or stop altogether.
Yes.
So I don't know when they started on their epilepsy medicine, but it may be that after a while of being on their medicine, the headaches that they're experiencing might die down or stop. It's also the case that everybody experiences things in different ways. So a treatment for headaches that one person's experiencing could be completely different to another person. It could be a good idea to talk to your pharmacist about that, and also your doctor if you're really, really struggling. In some circumstances, if somebody's side effects are so extreme that they're really struggling, your neurologist might look into a different medicine or altering your treatment in some way to try and support you with that.
I guess it's sort of thinking about how severe the headaches are, I guess, and then seeking further medical advice if you think it's more than just something, just a slight headache. It can be but headaches can be obviously take over so much of life, can't they?
And it's also the case that because we don't have a huge amount of information about headaches themselves on our website or as a helpline team, but there are other organisations that do. And I'm not sure if I'm getting this right, but I'm pretty sure there's an organisation called the Migraine Trust.
I've heard of that.
Haven't worked with them directly, but I'm sure that they would be happy for people to give them a call and share what they're struggling with, and they may have some more tips and more advice than we do. I think often if you have something like epilepsy, you forget that there are other people out there who might be able to offer a bit of advice.
Exactly. So the Migraine Trust is one example, but we do signpost to a lot of other organisations that you might not be aware of, depending on what you're going through. So do get in touch. There are lots of people out there who can help, and our helpline is obviously a great source of like a starting point to find out about those. So Robbo has asked, is brain fog a part of epilepsy? Now we hear brain fog a lot, don't we, in terms of, if you've just tuned in, I think we were having a moment earlier, we just couldn't remember our words, but equally brain fog, what is it? Is it kind of when you just can't find your words, or I don't know,
It can be. So for some people, that's exactly how they describe it. A bit of brain fog means you can't find your words. Some people, you just say that you feel a bit disorientated. But it is different for everybody. And I think it's one of those things where with epilepsy, it's so hard to describe. Often when people have epilepsy and they're not, say, having a physical seizure that everybody can see, they describe it as a funny feeling in their head. And that's so hard to interpret for somebody who doesn't have epilepsy, and saying things like brain fog is so hard to interpret for somebody who doesn't have epilepsy. That it can be that you're struggling to find words, or you feel a bit fuzzy, as I've also heard people describe it as.
And it's sort of like you think you go to do one thing and then the next thing you think, why am I doing this? What was I? Which I guess a lot of people experience in life, but I think certainly with epilepsy, do you think, is it largely related to medication side effects or the aftermath of a seizure potentially? Or,
it can be. It can. When it comes to epilepsy, it can be, as you said, epilepsy medicine side effects. It can be it can sometimes be that after a seizure it's taking you a while to sort of, people describe it as getting back to normal, but feeling yourself again. It's also the case that epilepsy can impact people's memory, and it's that memory that's been, in some cases, it's the memory that has been affected that's causing you to feel as though you've got a bit of brain fog. And we do have quite a bit of information on our website about memory and epilepsy, because it is something that impacts a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think, thinking of different tips, there's lots of things that I've seen some people have calendars on their fridges, or, you know, so they remember they've taken their meds, or I don't know, any tips and tricks that you come across. I guess it's already personal, but yeah, thinking about how your brain fog affects you, and specifically, you know, any sort of tips and tricks that people have. Do you hear anything on the helpline that kind of...
Lots of photos of things can be helpful, and the dossier or dossette boxes people find, they're sort of the medicine boxes that have, say, morning and evening and your medicines in them. A lot of people I talk to who've just been diagnosed is when people find it the most difficult, because you're trying to learn the tips that help you, you know, if you'd find taking pictures helpful, if you find alarms helpful. And it isn't the case for everybody, but for some people that I talk to, after a while of being diagnosed, you do find those things that can make it just a little bit easier. But it is definitely something a lot of people with epilepsy struggle with. And I think knowing you're not alone can be really helpful.
I think so, no, it's such a common thing that we hear that often unites people with epilepsy. But if you're watching and you've got any tips or ways that you find to cope with brain fog or challenges with memory, just put them in the comment box below, and do share them. And
definitely, I hear some really interesting stuff on the phone. Steal people's ideas all the time.
People are creative. I know one friend said that she's got an app that you just write a couple of lines a day, so she keeps almost like a 2-line diary a day, and then she can look back on it as the weeks and months go on, and it just reminds her of a moment in time. So I thought that was a nice touch. So I guess it's all very personal, but I hope that helped. If you're just tuning in, we're taking questions about all things to do with epilepsy, and earlier on in the chat that we had questions about a lot of people worried about medicine supply. So it might just be worth just a quick recap on that, because I think we've had a few more questions about medicine supply. So I guess what to do if you're having medicine supply issues and you're concerned about how you're going to get your medication. What would you do?
So as I said earlier, so just sorry if you've been watched this twice. You can always get in touch with us and we will look into it for you. And because there can be so many reasons why somebody might be struggling to get their medicine, and we wouldn't be able to go over all of those right now, we will be able to if you give us a call, and we can ask the questions and try and get that for you. One of the things you can do, if, for example, you go to your pharmacy and they say they don't have your medicine at the moment, you could take your prescription to a different pharmacist and see if they have any available in stock, or if they're able to order any for you. In some cases, a pharmacist can call the wholesaler and ask for some medicine directly. You can also ask for support from your doctor. And it really depends on the situation that you're in, which is easy for us to say again on the helpline.
But definitely get in touch. We know that, because that often helps us to build a picture. It's not just you that it's happening to. It could be various people in an area, or even wider. So just do get in touch if you experienced anything, and then we can then take that to the manufacturers if we haven't already, and then get some answers for you. But definitely shop around as well. Have a look around other pharmacists.
And you said earlier as well, we do keep a drug watch page.
On our website.
On our website, and we keep it as up to date as we possibly can. So that if you are a bit concerned about your medicine and you're waiting to get in touch with us, for example, you can check and it will be up there if we've heard anything about it.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully that's helpful if you're just tuning in. But do get in touch if you do experience any medicine supply issues. Lou has asked, is it common to have more seizures at certain times of year? So I guess summer or winter. Obviously we're very much in winter now. Do we hear more of people are experiencing more in the cold, or does it tend to be during the heat wave times of year?
Yeah. I mean, it can vary. I don't know, from my personal knowledge, I don't know if there's specific times of year where people are more likely to have seizures. I think it can be the case that, for example, this time of year, people are a bit more likely to get colds or the flu and things.
Yeah.
And sometimes side effects or symptoms of, for example, a cold could be a high temperature.
Yeah.
Now, we do know that for some people with epilepsy, if they have a high temperature, then they're more likely to have seizures. So it may be not necessarily that it's the time of year, but if more people are catching colds and more people are getting a high temperature, it's a possibility that it could increase their chances of having a seizure. But what I'd say is not everybody who has epilepsy is impacted by that, and not everybody who has epilepsy is going to have their seizures triggered by high temperatures. So it's something that you can definitely watch out for.
Definitely.
But I don't want to scare anybody into thinking that that's going to impact
cold
them.
Equals, I think it's just thinking about, I guess, how different temperatures affect you all times of year, and then just taking steps to look after.
Yeah,
it's easier said than done, I guess. And like you said, epilepsy is so individual. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's not that a certain time of year is related to more seizures. So Rajesh has just asked, any advice around long haul flights, particularly, I guess, different time zones and taking my medicine. So thank you for that question. So yeah, travelling, I guess people are travelling a lot more now, you know, it's not so restricted. So yeah, if you're about to go on a flight, whether it's a short haul or long haul, what would you recommend?
For some people, they feel as though they might need to change when they take their epilepsy medicines, depending on where they're going, how long they're going for, and the time difference. And that is something that you can do under the supervision of your neurologist or a doctor. And it can be quite useful for some people.
Tons.
A lot travelling with epilepsy and going over things like medicines. Because there's quite a few tips on there about how to travel with certain medicines. And things like keeping your medicine on you, keeping your prescription on you can be really important. To make sure that you're staying safe. But if you feel as though, because it sounds as though they're concerned about taking the medicine at the right time.
I think because it's a long haul flight, different time zones. So like you say, you know, if you normally take it at 8 a.m. in the morning, it's thinking about when you would be taking that in the new country that you're going to. And working it out, in advance, especially for the flight. It may be that if you're only staying for a short period of time, you choose not to change the times that you take your epilepsy medicines and then have to change it back. But for some people, they feel that that's necessary. And for other people, they choose to, if they're going for a long period of time, they do feel as though that's best. But that's when you're in the other country that you're travelling to. In relation to the flight, it is just important to try and take it the same amount of time in between as you normally do. And again, you can ask your doctor or in some cases your pharmacist for a bit of advice about that. That's good. And definitely check out our webpage because there's so much to think about when you're travelling, you know, not just a flight, but when you get there, and then making sure you've got enough medication with you, making sure that maybe other people, if there's a different language out there, that you can say that you've got epilepsy. We've just made some little cards. I don't know if you've seen them for the World. It was inspired by the World Cup, I think. But so if you go to a foreign country and have seen them
on our website, it's another organisation that's created it that has first aid information and information about epilepsy in general in a number of different languages.
I think it's the International Bureau of Epilepsy. I had to look that up recently because someone I was talking to was going abroad and just wanted to have that kind of reassurance to be able to say, or even if it's not just for them but for their partner or friend that they're travelling with, just that they can have that conversation when you're out and about, and because if a seizure happens, then.
And sometimes I often talk to people where they might find that helpful, but really what's helpful is it can just put your mind at ease a little bit. Just having that bit of information that's in the correct language in your back pocket and you can take it with you can calm people down, and it just makes things a bit easier for you.
Exactly.
So that is there, and I definitely recommend having a look at that one.
Yeah, so we hope that helps, Rajesh, and good luck with your flight. I hope you're going somewhere nice.
Yeah.
It just feels very wintry and foggy out here. It just feels like you want the sun. I don't know, but I want the summer back.
Yeah.
Want some warm weather, but okay, right. Jason has asked, can you give me any information about cenobamate? So that's a relatively new medication, isn't it? Yeah.
So cenobamate is normally used as an add-on treatment, from what I know.
Yeah, so it's not just like an only medication, like what you'd have it in addition to your other medication. Okay.
And it would have to be prescribed by a doctor. Yeah. Okay. And it doesn't tend to be the first one that's prescribed. It would be tends to be if some other ones haven't worked for you, and they might look into cenobamate.
Yeah.
And we do have some information. You can find information about it on the British National Formulary website.
Okay.
I don't think there's any information about it on the NHS website yet. That might have been changed recently, but last time I checked it wasn't. Okay. We have had quite a few questions about it, which is good. It's nice that people are...
I guess people want to know about new options, don't they?
What you can do if you've got questions like that, because although we have a bit of information that we're happy to share, and if you want to give us a call and ask about it, we can go into it in much more detail. But there are online forums that we look over. So, for example, Health Unlocked, Facebook pages. Is it a Discord? I'm out of it a little bit with that one.
No, that's the one I've not... that's another sort of social media thing where it's like forum where people are talking, sharing stuff. But Discord's there's a real community on there, isn't there?
And you can always ask questions about things like cenobamate, see what other people have experienced, and just learn a bit about it through other people, which can be really nice. And we do keep an eye on it, so nothing, although what's nice, I think, is that we stay out of it a lot. I know that if anything inaccurate's put on there, it is commented on, and we make sure that there's nothing that isn't true or isn't accurate.
But it is a relatively new drug, Jason, so like Rosie said, check out the BNF page, come to us on the helpline, and definitely talk to others and see what they can suggest, and how, if they take it, obviously, and how it's affected them. But it'll be an interesting one to see how that develops and helps people to manage seizures in the future. So next question from Brunner. I hope I've pronounced that right. Can controlled epilepsy still prevent me from becoming a paramedic? So that's...
sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just wondering, because obviously there's a lot of training involved, and controlled epilepsy, that shouldn't, no.
I think it can depend on, it depends on the requirements of that specific role. For example, if you need to drive an ambulance and you have recently had seizures, then you wouldn't be eligible to drive that ambulance or have that specific type of licence. I'm unsure. We've faced this question a few times on the helpline, and without that information directly in front of me, I'd be a bit unsure as to exactly how to answer it. So what I would say is, if you're confident or comfortable, give us a call or send us an email or comment on the Instagram, and one of the team will have a look into it and reply to you with a bit more of a detailed answer on that one, because we've definitely faced it, but I can't remember the exact response that there was. Yeah,
I think we have lots of employment advice that it's often easier to talk about that on the phone, and then you can talk about how your seizures have been controlled, and employer advice and how to approach that with any potential employers. We've got a toolkit, haven't we? So there's a lot to take in.
Yeah, and when it comes to employment, in most cases, most jobs are safe for people with epilepsy. And then on occasion, there are jobs like being a paramedic where the rules are slightly different, and to ensure that people are safe to do that job, or that they can meet all of the requirements. And so every so often there is a trickier job to answer the question for.
Exactly. But but hopefully that helps. But good luck with your job search. Obviously, paramedic's an incredibly important job, and really hope that you can, if that's your dream, that you can to go for it. But obviously, make sure you're fully informed and get that advice first.
Yeah, it can also be the case that I've spoken to some people where they haven't got in touch with us before they went looking for a job, and in some cases we don't know the answer to the question. But if you are considering a role like that, and you haven't gone through the training yet, contacting whoever's providing that training and asking them information about how having epilepsy may impact that job, and if you're suitable for it, after you finish the training, if epilepsy is going to impact actually getting being employed, getting all that information before you've taken part in the actual training can be really helpful, because you're putting yourself in a safer spot then.
Definitely, yeah.
And finding out that you're not eligible to do a job that you really want to do can be really difficult.
Yeah.
But it could also be really tough if you've gone through all that training and then find out that you're not suitable for it. And I have spoken to people who've been put in that position.
Same here, and that's really tough, isn't it? That you're like your dream almost, and then you've got so far, and then it's just not.
And then it's been stopped. Yeah, I invested a lot of time in training, and then
often money as well.
Yeah,
you're training in there, so definitely get as much knowledge as you can, and talk it through with someone, because that can often make all the difference as well.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit more time. So if anyone's still watching and you want to ask an epilepsy question, then obviously go for it. We've been talking about quite a lot today, haven't we? We've had medication, supply, jobs, travel, memory. There's a lot to take in, isn't there? But we get asked a lot on our helpline, and we've got a new web chat facility that we've had for the last month or so. How's that doing? Because obviously it's not just about calling the helpline now. You can actually. So do you just go on the website?
So you get like a little bot that chats up, asks you if you want any help. And what I think's nice about our one, it sounds like I'm going to brag loads, it is one of the helpline team. So you're not talking to a robot, you are talking to us. And sometimes people just feel a bit more confident writing down what they're feeling rather than giving somebody a phone call. So it's really nice that you've got that option.
If you just want to sometimes ask a question while you're doing other things as well, sometimes you just might want to do that. You don't need to wait till the end of the day to pick up the phone. Quite a few people are talking on the chat about people feeling like they're not getting the right treatment from their neurologist. So what would you do if you feel that you're not getting quite the answers that you want? What would you how would people go about that?
It can be really tricky, and I've definitely spoken to a lot of people who've been put in that position.
Yeah.
And obviously, because we're not there, we don't know exactly what's happening, so sometimes it can be a little difficult. We do have some information on our website under Getting the Right Treatment that does discuss some things like this and what you can do if you're put in that position.
Okay.
Some examples of what you could do, you can ask your current neurologist or your GP for a referral to a different neurologist.
Okay.
You're not necessarily entitled to it, but you can always ask.
It's almost like getting that second opinion.
Yeah, it would be asking for somebody else's point of view.
Okay.
Some people do choose to go private. There isn't necessarily a guarantee though that you're going to get a different answer, and I think sometimes that's a struggle that people have, that you disagree with the answer that you were given, and so feel as though a private neurologist might be more helpful. And in some cases they might be, or they might give you a different answer, but it's not a guarantee.
Okay, yeah.
And that is important to know, I think. It's also the case that you could, if you felt as though you were struggling with the support you were getting or it wasn't right, you can contact the Patient Advice and Liaison Service.
Yeah, that's you might know of that as PALS.
Yeah.
But there's information about that on our website.
Yeah, it's in the same section.
Yeah, so do they kind of liaise with the hospital?
Yeah, so
to kind of mediate almost.
Because they're part of the NHS, they're allowed to look into it a bit more and have more answers than we do. And it would be the PALS department at the specific hospital that you went to as well, which is really,
that's handy.
And they can look into problems that you might be having with the healthcare system. If you felt as though you wanted to make a complaint, you can also do that through PALS.
Yeah.
And their sort of aim is to improve the quality of support that you're getting through the NHS and to resolve any questions or concerns that you might have.
Yeah.
So do give out the PALS number of specific hospitals to people quite a bit.
Yeah, there are definitely something. If you feel something's not right or you're not getting the answers you need, definitely seek that second opinion and check out PALS, and they can obviously be that go-between when you feel you're not getting the answers that you need. So we're sorry to hear that if that is the case, but yeah, good luck with trying to find out more information. We've got another question here from Cassie. She has a 19-year-old son. And he's been 1 year. So she wants to know, will he be able to get a driving licence once he's been seizure free for 1 year? Will it be a medically restricted licence?
So it would be a medically restricted licence,
yeah.
But and I don't know his exact situation, but in most cases you are eligible to apply for your licence or get your licence back if you have been 1 year seizure free.
Okay. Yeah.
The rules can vary slightly depending on the type of seizure you have, if you have them when you're asleep or if you have them when you're awake. So I'd recommend having a look at our website or giving us a call, because the driving rules can be really tricky, and we definitely all ask each other questions about them.
Yeah, it's there's lots of, sort of nuances and different restrictions and
definitely. But the general rule of thumb is if you're 1 year seizure free, you are able to start driving again as long as you applied correctly, and you have to then meet other regulations. But
yeah, Cassie, do give us a ring. That's probably an easy one to talk through on the phone. Just to talk about what your son is going through now, and what stage he's at. But yeah, I appreciate that. Must be at 19. It's a big thing to be able to want to drive and have your independence. So but there are lots of rules and things to bear in mind, so do get in touch. I guess driving is one of our biggest topics, isn't it, that we get asked about.
And I think sometimes it can be really difficult to find your way around because the rules are so different for different types of epilepsy. It's also the case that people have seizures for different conditions. It doesn't just have to be epilepsy. And then the rules are different can be different varying on what condition you have, which makes it even more complicated when you're completing forms.
Is it right that if you have nocturnal seizures sometimes you can still drive?
So
is that more complicated?
It can be. That can be true. So if somebody has don't take my exact word for this, definitely double check it, but from what I can remember, it's 3 years. If you have a pattern of just sleep seizures for 3 years, if you've previously also had awake seizures, if your awake seizures have stopped, then you may be able to start driving again whilst you're only having sleep seizures.
Right.
If somebody has only ever experienced sleep seizures, then it's possible that they could start driving sooner if they continue to only ever experience sleep seizures.
Right, okay.
But seizure in the past.
So
there definitely is support out there for children at school, and it's so good that you're actually looking for it, because I have spoken to a lot of people who find that out after, so I'm really glad that you've already looked into that and that you're speaking to the SENCO. Now, sometimes examples can be some children have dictaphones in class and they can go home and listen back to that. It depends on your daughter's age. I'm not sure of your daughter's age, but that's an example. Some people have somebody who supports them in the lessons. Other people can have, for example, work is sent home to them, or the lesson plans are sent home to them so they can go back through that. There's lots of stuff out there that can actually be quite helpful for children when it comes to struggling at school. It's likely, it may not be the case, but it's likely that she's also entitled to some extra support during exams. So, for example, extra time. We do have a lot of information about it, as I said, on our website.
Because education is just such a big area and such a pivotal age as well for a lot of people. whether you're in primary or secondary. It's huge, isn't it? So,
and the type of support that you're entitled to varies depending on each person as well. So that's something to look into. Yeah. But there actually is a lot out there for people with epilepsy, and you don't necessarily think of it. So it's good that you've started to look into that already.
Yeah. So finding some tips and tricks that work for her. So just finding what helps to help her with memory and stuff. But do get in touch with our helpline once again. But it's often some of these bigger things are easy to talk about. So we hope that's been helpful initially. But do find out more. So I think we're wrapping up very soon. But is there anything that you want us to talk about in the future, or if you've got any other questions, please get in touch with our helpline on 0808 800 50 50. You can also email the helpline at helplineepilepsy.org.uk, and you can also chat on the new website chat facility thing. So there's lots of different ways, but if there's anything that you would like us to cover in these Instagram lives, then please let us know, because we want these to be your sessions. So thank you to everyone who was tuned in, and we will see you at the next one.